Thank you so much, sir, and thank you so much, ma'am. And now I would request Mr. N.S. Venkatesh, Chief Executive AMFI, to felicitate Shri Manoj Kumar, Executive Director from SEBI. Thank you so much, sir. And now I would request Mr. Navneet Munot, MD and CEO, HDFC Asset Management Company Limited, to felicitate Srimati Ruchi Chodar, Executive Director, SEBI. Moving ahead, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, now I will call upon the Chief Executive AMFI, Mr. N. Venkatesh, to come on stage and say a few words.
He's the person.
Good evening, respected Chairperson Madhabi Puri, Buch, full-time member Anand, Executive Director Manoj Kumar, Balasubramaniam, Chairman AMFI, Narka Gupta, Vice Chairperson AMFI, the captains of the industry who are all sitting there, the entire board of AMFI. Are here, and also the media and the press. It is indeed a momentous occasion for us to have the inauguration of AMFI's own office by none other than Chairperson of SEBI Madhabi Puri, Buch, for which we are deeply indebted to her. AMFI has traversed a lot of years, right from 1995 to 2023 now, and it has contributed to the overall development of the industry, working with SEBI in guidance of SEBI, and the industry has grown by leaps and bounds. So we didn't have an office of our own. We were in a rented space. So we thought for a long time that we should have an office, and the board was kind enough to say that let us go ahead and acquire a premises, and that is how we acquired this premises from GMR. It's a 10,000 square feet premises, and essentially it will have 2 rooms for training, and there's a spacious boardroom as well. We believe that AMFI has a much more bigger role to play, and towards that we will seek the guidance of SEBI at all points of time, and we work with SEBI towards the development of the overall industry. And I welcome Chairperson Madhabi Puri, Buch, for this inauguration. Thanks for inaugurating, thanks for lighting the lamp, thanks for unveiling the plaque. Thank you so much. And I also welcome Anand sir for coming here and gracing this occasion and honoring us. I also welcome Manoj Kumar sir for being so gracious enough to accept our invitation and be here. And this adds to our belief that SEBI trust in AMFI much more. So we believe that, and it's a vindication of that trust that all the top management of SEBI is here to be in the inaugural ceremony of this office. I welcome all the guests and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And moving ahead, may I now call upon stage Mr. A. Balasubramanian, Chairman, AMFI and Chief Executive Officer, Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company on stage, and please share, sir, a quick glimpse that the progress Indian mutual fund industry has made in last year. Thank you. Can we have a huge round of applause?
Thanks, Mr. Venkatesh.
and welcome to Chairperson Madhabi Buch and Mr. Barua, full-time member, and Mr. Manoj, Executive Director, and my colleagues from the industry, the board members, and the industry colleagues who have been putting all their best effort to ensure that AMFI is where they are today. And I must first thank each one of them for having significantly contributed to the success of mutual industry. Now I just want to also, I think it's a happy occasion for one simple reason. We are launching the new office of AMFI immediately after the new parliament getting launched in Delhi within a matter of 2 days. It's one easy to remember, except you not put Sengol here. Maybe whenever we now have the chairmanship changing, we'll probably hand over the power to the new chairman with the Sengol as a sign of change of power. Also wanted to just thank SEBI for all the support that all these years you have been giving. This one industry has been a role model in many ways, collaborating with each other, compete in the market for growing the size. But when it comes to the question of industry development, we collaborate with each other, and that's why we build this business. We are always proud to be associated with one mutual industry, and second is AMFI as an association, and third is working with SEBI in multiple ways in bringing the necessary changes, both in policy making and also necessary behavioral changes for the industry. One of the such proud moment, which all of us felt happy that you are also present in that event, which was addressed by none other than our own Prime Minister, myself, Nanit and Nilesh. We are sitting in the front row, you are sitting in the front row, we are sitting behind you. When suddenly that Prime Minister mentioned about mutual fund, we were all wondering actually in such a large audience, and Prime Minister addressing the whole nation. Suddenly how mutual fund is coming. Moment mutual fund name is taken anywhere, our ear will go like this. I just want to start the presentation with that video.
आज भारत में एक बड़ा एस्पिरेशनल क्लास है जो ग्रोथ के लिए इन्वेस्ट करना चाहता है. एक उदाहरण म्यूचुअल फंड का भी है. एसोसिएशन ऑफ म्यूचुअल फंड के मुताबिक 2014 में भारत में म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री की एसेट अंडर मैनेजमेंट करीब 10 लाख करोड़ थी. इन 8 सालों में जून 2022 तक ये 250% बढ़कर 35 लाख करोड़ हो गई है. यानी लोग इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, वो इसके लिए तैयार हैं.
This recognition and endorsement would not have come but for you giving the number to Prime Minister office, and AMFI as a body giving this full details to the Prime Minister office. Of course, Nilesh being part of the PM Advisory Council, but for him also this number would not have come. So I want to thank each one of you for bringing this to the world at large, coming from the Prime Minister himself. From a customer-based point of view, I think we take pride how the folios got added from in the year 2017 from about 1.2 crores folios investors. Now it's gone to about 3.77 crores unique investors. And in fact, last 2 years, the industry added close to about 1.5 crores investors, which again something we all feel proud. The second area we feel proud, this slide of course very difficult to read, but there are only blue lines and red lines. The blue represents DII's buying and selling, and the red represents FII buying and selling. The number of blues, if you look at, is on the top, which has been one of the strongest counterforce that we have created. In fact, wherever most of us traveled and addressed public audience, one question always used to come: when would the FII selling will stop in India? Therefore, we can go and buy and so on and so forth. Nobody asked this question because mutual fund became one of the strongest counterforce the last few years, giving stability to the Indian equity capital market. So the ownership of the domestic institutional investors, if you look at the chart, the DII versus FII, of course this number includes insurance as well as mutual funds. The fact of the matter is, in the year 2013, the ownership of Indian domestic institutional investors in the Nifty companies was 12%, There is now gone to about 19%, which includes mutual fund. And most of the contribution has come from mutual fund industry's growth in the equity assets under management. And as we all know that Indian mutual fund industry started with a big bank in equity, then it became fixed income, then became equity. Today equity became a dominant asset class in the industry. This is something that reflects in the ownership of Nifty companies. This is the power of SIPs, which is Chota Packet and Bada Dhamaka. Is something as actually we are now seeing it. I think what has ensured this SIP number made the industries more sustainable. All of us used to be living with the volatile period. Money used to come and go out. This SIP monthly SIP is coming in. Now run rate is close to about 14,000 crores per month. And 7.717 lakh crore is the contribution coming from SIP as a class out of 20 lakh crore. This again made Indian mutual industries more sustainable from a longer term point of view. The geographic footprint, the other day we were discussing in your office, how the mutual funds have taken after the launch of mutual fund SAI, every nook and corner of the country. 95% of the pin codes in India have got mutual fund investments. As per the CAM's analysis, 90% of the pin codes today have got mutual fund investments coming in. B30 cities today accounts for 30% of the individual assets management, and 70 lakh women investors contribute about 7.5 lakh crores, and overall AUM also has come from women investors. And the beauty here is the B30, when it was introduced by SEBI, the form B15. Often we say that any marketing textbook, one looks at it, I don't think you will find the word like B15 or B30. The B15 was created by SEBI in 2012. In fact, post that B15 initiative was taken by SEBI, the expansion of the industry has happened big time, because all of us all became serious in expand. But for that, I don't think we would have actually thought about expanding nooks and corners of the country. That's something we take pride in. In terms of distribution, clearly without the distribution strength, the mutual fund would not have grown to where we are today. The beauty here is the ARN holders. Today we have about 1,36,000 ARN holders that we have. The number to look at is 50% of the ARN holders and 35% the employees' unique identification number is coming from B30 cities. Today, out of the distribution community that is there, 50% of the distribution community is coming from B30 cities. 80% individual assets under management is contributed from mutual fund distributors, which is individual distributors. And SIP that have completed more than 5 years, and most of them, 90% of their assets are acquired by the MFDs, and 38,000 women MFDs also help investors manage money. This is something again we achieved. In fact, ARN is the registration. Was again initiative taken by AMFI under the guidance of SEBI. Till such time there was absolutely no registration process in the mutual industry. In fact, we have made it more robust and made it more like a license kind of environment that we did it. Again, jointly with the SEBI, under the guidance of SEBI. And today, everyone has to get registered as an ARN holder before you start selling the mutual fund. The role of mutual fund, AMFI as a body, we never thought there were trade associations. We never thought that it's a mutual fund lobby. So we have been ensuring that we have a fair representation of the all asset management company as a AMFI in every parts of every walks of life, whether it is the regulation or in every industry that we do it, fostering mutual fund as something have become a role model, I just mentioned at the beginning itself. And they set up the mutual fund utility. We were the first one. Of course, I must also admit that we couldn't make it really big. We thought about starting a mutual fund utility MFU as a vehicle, as one of digital platform under the guidance of UK Sinha when he was the SEBI chairman, to build that as a model. And in fact, had we even invested money in that, today would have become one of the most powerful digital platform. That's something we take pride in that. Recently, we of course asked for a KRA license. I'll talk about it, where the KRA license that is being given to the MFU could be utilized effectively. I'll talk about in the future growth plan that we have. The last, the AMC Repo Clearing Corporations, I still remember you are guiding the team and you are involved in that whole discussion of 42 mutual fund CEOs discussion we had. We opened the floor, for all of us to give our input. And then we gave an idea that like the way we made mutual fund SAI at the 2% contribution coming from mutual fund, The same way we can actually develop bond market, also we can build in the same way, more efficient bond market development. That's the time it gave a birth. Soon we are going to see this launching of this platform also. But all those things actually have been done, including the central mutual fund central, have been done under the initiative of AMFI, working closely with SEBI as a regulator. And this is something again, various committees which of course play a role. I think ethics of the mutual fund industry and for employees and distributors, something issuing a code of conduct on an ongoing basis. I think mutual fund industry has also been developed in the bond market, though I didn't put any slides on that. I think but for 20 lakh crores coming from the fixed income asset class in Indian mutual fund industry, the bond market would not have got developed where they are today. In fact, we take pride. Since the time the mutual funds started launching right from liquid fund to the various duration funds, we in fact saw the proper yield curve in the country. And Nilesh knows and Avanish knows who have worked in the bond market will know that absolutely no bond market curve in those days of 90s. The real bond market yield curve got developed only after the mutual funds came into play. That's something again we take pride. The pivotal role developed in the ESGs is again jointly with SEBI have done it. That's something we still have a long way to go. But other industry related matters, regulators, winning the trust of regulators, that's something we believe that have happened over a period of time in ensuring that AMFI as a body very closely working and develop on the market. So earlier we used to of course all of us used to be investment professionals, most of us, we used to think that AMFI means is I'm talking about Korean who was the initial chairman, original chairman. We always used to call him as a committee chairman. Now we understand the power of committee. Because we have for every initiative that we take, some of them are very powerful committee in the sense the valuation committee. The beauty of each of the committees, all of us contribute personally in that as a member of the industry, as a practitioner, and wearing the hat of industry first, without bringing the hat of our own business and selfish approach. That selfless committee, I can say, that's something as the AMFI committee has established over a period of time. The valuation committee is something has done a wonderful job in introducing, first time ever in the country, single security valuation. Nowhere in the world it works. Nowhere in the other industry also it exists today, including banks and insurance companies. We are the only one to have single security valuation taken from the external service provider. That's something which we have introduced. The same way there is an ARN committee for development. Operation committee, now this year we recoined operation committee as an operation, compliance and risk committee. That's something we have brought everything together, given the fact that governance is also becoming important for us to drive. And there is an ETF committee. Again, it's something that has done a great job in terms of promoting a product which are more interest of investors, cheaper product, no doubt. But again, we as an industry have to be fair to the investors. The equity CIO committee again does lots of work around the proxy voting, M&A transactions, and then what are the other steps that you have to take for equity disclosures. And finally is the financial literacy committee, which is something which we take pride since the time the 2 basis points was given to the MF industry. Out of it, half of it will go to AMFI and half of it will be spent by individual AMCs. Since then, financial literacy committee also have done a wonderful job in terms of building the aims to where we are today. The last but not the least, I think Mr. Venkatesh mentioned about we have moved to their own office. In fact, we had a premises committee. So premises committee, I cannot put it here because that's a temporary committee. Once the job is done, we have to give up that committee. And Pradeep and the team and Nilesh, when he was the chairman, we identified we must have our own space, which need to get, which need to buy it and build it. So thanks to that committee for making this today's inauguration real. On the basis of this, clearly our aim to become the larger as we move forward. Clearly where we are in terms of customer base, 3.7 crore customer base, clearly moving towards 10 crores customer base, fully customer base. And AUM definitely is about 41 lakh crore. Definitely we are aiming for about 100 lakh crores size in the next few years. I'm sure it will definitely come. We never thought 40 lakh crore will come. Therefore 100 lakh crore also will come the same way. And mutual fund distributors, there is one area we continue to remain bullish. There is initiative that we have taken as an industry body. 1.37 lakh ARN holders that we have. We continue to have a very strong view that we will have 5 lakh ARN holders in the country to serve the growing needs of the savings pools that rise in the country. and more city you look at it, all becoming wealthier. Therefore, continue to hold our fight that ARN holders in the country also will continue to rise. AMFI 2 is something, I think as you walked in, you made a comment that is the new office for the AMFI 2. In fact, we as a board have discussed and engaged PwC to look at and help us to build AMFI for the next few years. Again, coming from the fact that AMFI is a body, it's almost 30 years old. There is a need to, of course, relook at what kind of model we should have, given the fact that the world is changing. So we have actually emphasized each of the areas, making AMC to work inclusively for the industry, work with the distributors, regulators, investors and others, and look at the various moving parts that could actually enable the industry to go to the next level. That's something we have put in place, and soon you will find the AMFI bench strength is increasing, the more and more contribution coming from AMFI, mainly in order to ensure that governance one side is taken care, at the same time development also we are able to do it very efficiently. Some of the new initiatives which are planned, clearly one of the vision that we have is in order to achieve that 10 crore customer base, this Kata Kolo kind of concept, the way I think Jandan Yojana has been created by the Prime Minister a few years back, and clearly we have seen and what kind of impact it had. Clearly using the MF, the literacy, some bit of a corpus, we have put in place, we have of course looked at how we can actually drive the Kata Kolo kind of thing, which is nothing but making every citizen of the country KAC ready, which is the first thing that he has to complete before he come to actually open a portfolio and mutual fund. Second is digital onboarding on the investor, on the basics of mutual funds using the artificial intelligence and powered chatbot, where GPT is coming. So we are also looking at various ways and means of how we can use the chat GPT to promote mutual funds. And popularizing fixed income, of course equity and asset class is extremely important, no doubt. Giving equal emphasis on building fixed income and asset class in the country, despite whatever the taxation issues happened recently, but remain asset class relevant for the customers from an overall scheme of thinking on asset allocation. That's something we believe that we must spend some money on that space as well. And getting more women investors in the mutual industry, though we have reached some success, we still have a long way to go. These are the few initiatives which are now putting in place as a new initiative for AMFI. And ultimately, the mantra of AMFI, collaboration is the key to the success. Competition, of course, will always have competitions. Industry number of players will increase, but make entire industry players have a common principles, one uniform policies, all those things will work. Jointly working with the government and SEBI, AMFI will work, of course, closely everyone, and including the entire ecosystem, and work for the interest of investors. This is a brief presentation I just want to make, and thank you once again, ma'am, for your presence, and all of us are looking forward to hearing your blessing to all of us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for capturing the journey and giving us
Mutual funds are subject to market risks. To mutual funds sahi hai, our campaign made the common man realize that mutual funds are indeed sahi. In the initial 3 years, the Mutual Fund Sahi Hai campaign created awareness, busted myths, and reassured against volatility. We built on this success and reinforced the message of goal-based investing through SIPs.
म्यूचुअल फंड्स में तो टाइम लगता है ना, तो तुझे उसकी शादी कल करवानी है क्या?
लाइफ में तेरा जो भी गोल हो, बड़ा या छोटा, उसके लिए हर महीने अलग-अलग SIP में इन्वेस्ट कर.
And even got Captain Cool to explain it.
इस इनिंग्स की शुरुआत म्यूचुअल फंड से कर. थोड़े-थोड़े पैसे SIP के जरिए म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर.
We used the nation's obsession with his retirement as well.
मैंने फिक्र नहीं, तैयारी की है म्यूचुअल फंड्स के साथ.
म्यूचुअल फंड्स
During market volatility, we reassured our investors.
10 सालों से पैसा इन्वेस्ट किया हुआ है और इन 10 सालों में न जाने कितनी बार मार्केट ऊपर नीचे गया.
Even the god of cricket was sailing in the same boat.
मार्केट नीचे आने की वजह से पोर्टफोलियो मेरा भी डाउन हुआ है. मार्केट्स का तो नेचर है ऊपर नीचे होना. हमारा काम है म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्टेड रहना.
We cautioned our investors against unknown new age investments.
जिन इन्वेस्टमेंट पे रेगुलेशंस नहीं होते, वो क्यों ग्रो हो रहे हैं, उनकी वैल्यू क्यों बढ़ रही है, किसी को कुछ नहीं पता.
and shady operators.
इस महीने जब मेरी बारी आई फंड उठाने की तो स्कीम चलाने वाले गॉड तू ये अट्रैक्टिव स्कीम्स का चक्कर छोड़ और म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर.
Our campaign was supported with print, out of home, radio, and a full spectrum of digital content across social media platforms. Anchored on our multi-language website, mutualfundsahihai.com, our campaign became a part of pop culture. Stand-up comedians picked it up.
हमने इन लोगों ने पूजा का भी एफडी कर लिया यार. भाई मैंने बोला खबर है सब पैसा कौन डालता है एफडी में, थोड़ा एफडी में डालो, थोड़ा म्यूचुअल फंड में डालो, थोड़ा औलादों को दो, इधर थोड़ा दे दो इधर. मैंने उन्हें बोला पापा आपके म्यूचुअल फंड है क्या? अरे बेटा कोई फंड म्यूचुअल नहीं है.
From rap,
ध्यान से पढ़ लें म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिम के अधीन है. निवेश करते समय सारे दस्तावेज ध्यान से पढ़ लें.
to memes. There was no looking back. 6 साल हो गए, कैंपेन हो या इन्वेस्टर्स, कोई भी रुकने का नाम नहीं ले रहा. क्यों? सही है ना?
Wow. Now, moving ahead, Madam Srimati Madhabi Puri Buch, you are an inspiration. Madam needs no introduction, so without taking too much time, may I request you to please come on stage and share your thoughts as AMFI begins a new journey today. Can we have a huge round of applause?
Few slides to share with you. Is this working? But first of all, to begin with, let me assure you that AMFI does not need to convey any thanks to me for coming. For the simple reason कि मैं return on investment के बिना कहीं जाती नहीं. So I have already taken my return on investment in advance, and which is why I am here. So all the thanks is to you only, it's not to me. But also a warning that past performance is no indicator of the future. So AMFI will need to keep delivering and keep performing. नहीं तो अगले साल शायद पिछले साल हमने बैन किया था AMFI की कोई इवेंट थी, हमने कहा हम नहीं जाएंगे क्योंकि कुछ तो हुआ था. हाँ, हमने कुछ करने को बोला था, वो हुआ नहीं. हमने कहा रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं है तो हम नहीं जाएंगे. करेक्ट है ना? सो दिस इज as I said, all thanks to you, and I must say that there are a large number of people outside of the mutual fund system who are very miffed about AMFI. Because every time when they say anything, I said, but why don't you all get together and create an AMFI? Why don't you all do the kind of work that AMFI has done instead of, cribbing and complaining about lots of things? But when it actually comes to rolling up your sleeves and doing hard work, you need to do it the way AMFI does it. So I think there are a lot of people out there gunning for you because you're raising the bar constantly on what are the regulators' expectations from what we call, of course, a trade institution, but I think which has become a very important institution to us in the market. So let me start by saying that as an industry and as an instrument, the mutual fund movement, to us as a regulator, is by far the most preferred vehicle by which we would like to bring household savings into the markets. There is no doubt in our mind that this is the vehicle that is most appropriate. There are a large number of other vehicles. We find that those are often very accident prone. Often they are run very rashly. There are no checks and balances in those vehicles. And it is unfortunate that a large number of people, for the thrill of the market, often participate and ride those vehicles. And our own research reports in SEBI have demonstrated that, people come into the F&O market they compensate their margin. They are doing sad with us, but at the same time,
Excuse me, ma'am, audio problem. Ma'am, audio problem.
Audio. Sorry, the mic is not working. We're going live and we can't hear you. So sorry.
is that better?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So, to us, it is unambiguous, and I'm making that statement unambiguously, that for us as a regulator, this is the preferred vehicle for encouraging the citizens of this country to participate in the markets, to participate in the growth of the markets, and to participate in the growth of the economy. That is our belief. Now, as you can imagine, this then becomes the one industry in which we as a regulator repose a lot of faith as well as a lot of expectation. Because once having said that this is the preferred vehicle for all our investors, naturally we want that this car should be completely safe, it should have good brake linings, it should have cruise control, it should have safety belts, it should have the airbags, and should be equipped with everything that will first of all prevent any accident, and secondly, should an accident occur, nobody should die. So this is the spirit of why SEBI puts a lot of onerous responsibility on this industry, because ये हमारा बड़ा बेटा है. Okay, so lot of expectations, lot of expectations. In this context, the role of AMFI, I think, has been a sterling role, which has been not just envisaged but I think delivered. And here I must tell you again, with reference to this whole issue of return on investment, is that one day when I was chatting with my team and we were looking at KRAs for the year, so baat chali, and these days in SEBI we also have a concept called output based staffing. So unless there is output that's going to be delivered, you don't get staff. So in that context, baat ye chali that if AMFI had not been there, and if the entire support of the mutual fund industry behind AMFI had not been there, the SEBI mutual fund department would have needed 3 times the number of officers. So I think that this very fine balance that AMFI and the industry that goes behind AMFI has been able to achieve is 2 things. One is, of course, advocacy. But while some people think of advocacy as a bad word and as a polite way of talking about lobbying, I don't see it that way. I see advocacy as a very simple way in a highly complex world for a regulator to appreciate and understand the ground reality and the nuances of what is happening in the market and what it takes to succeed and what it takes to grow the markets, and as we saw earlier, to be a strong countervailing force to foreign flows which typically are impacted by many events which are outside of our control. What does it actually take to run that business? And when we are actually crafting policy and putting rules and regulations in place, even to imagine that we will be able to craft something that is sensible, sitting in some ivory tower not far away from here, without truly understanding what is actually happening, I think we would not be even a fraction as effective as a regulator as we are when we have the right spirit of advocacy which is brought to the table, not only with a spirit of wanting to obviously influence policy, but to, I would say, to teach, to explain. I know that we have had, in my previous stint when we were discussing issues like liquidity risk management and swing pricing, the number of hours that the industry sat to educate me is unimaginable. I mean, it reached a point where I would say, pata hai, when they go do their day job, बिकॉज सारा दिन तो मैं बुला के बैठाती हूँ कि ये एक्सप्लेन करो, वो एक्सप्लेन करो, तो ये लोग अपना काम धंधा कब करते हैं पता नहीं. बट दैट इज व्हाट इट टेक्स फॉर अ रेगुलेटर टू बी वेल इन्फॉर्म्ड and continuously well informed, because it's not, okay, एक बार समझा दिया चलो हो गई बात. It doesn't work like that because the market is so dynamic. So to constantly have an updation of what is the reality in the market, and that is the true spirit of advocacy, and I think that AMFI and all the people behind it truly manifest this spirit, and I would like to certainly congratulate all of you in doing that. The second equally important piece, is the issue of how AMFI creates consensus within the industry. I have had many occasions when, I meet my counterparts and my peers in the ISCO board meetings, and when we talk about some of the things that we've implemented in our markets, they are just gobsmacked. I mean, they can't believe some of the things that we have implemented and executed. Swing pricing was certainly one of those. And, they kept asking me, but, how do you manage this? How do you manage it? And I said, the answer is simple, that, we believe in the concept of co-creation. So we do not do anything without fully understanding and appreciating what will be the implication, what will be the shape of that bartan that we are trying to make. And we bring the entire industry along with us in order to actually create that. And we know from our experience again in the swing pricing example, and I think it's an important example, that we went through 3 versions of it. Version 1, and we said, no, this doesn't work. Version 2, it doesn't work. Version 3, finally, I think, or 3.5 was what really worked. And that was because we were adamant. We said any swing pricing mechanism, and we looked globally to look at any, example that we could find, any swing pricing mechanism that functions to the detriment of the smaller funds, and it results voluntarily or involuntarily into further creation of monopolies and duopolies and oligopolies, is not something that we will agree with, because as a regulator, the most important piece that we have to look at is transparency and competition. Unless there is competition in the industry, everything goes haywire. So we were very clear about it, and so when today AMFI makes a claim that the advice is indeed not motivated, it is truly in the interest of the industry, I am witness to the fact that that is indeed so, because otherwise we would not have arrived at the kind of solutions that we have, both in terms of swing pricing, liquidity risk management. I remember the very first meeting that I had with the industry on exit load for liquid funds. It simply would not have happened, right? So to us, this process of co-creation is extremely important. As we stand here today, I'm conscious of the fact that our most recent consultation paper, which was on TER, naturally, because it was many of our mutual funds are listed entities, so it was a price sensitive issue. So as you would have noticed that we went out of the normal way in which we do it on 2 counts. Number 1, we issued a press release before we actually started the consultation, because the market should know that this is a price sensitive issue. The second was that we are now engaging with the industry post the consultation paper. Normally, most of you know, these consultations happen in the advisory committee in great depth, and the consultation paper that comes out is a co-creation product. But because this was price sensitive, that process could not and should not and could not have been undertaken at that stage. It needed to be public. And now that it is public, and yes, that process of co-creation is at a somewhat later stage than this, but that process is now on. And as usual, we are very confident that, SEBI follows a philosophy of, it's not your opinion or my opinion, let's look at the data. So as and when the industry, and we urge them to do it quickly rather than later, presents us with the data that they have. We have worked on our data, but there are some differences. We often don't have granular data that the industry has, and so that will emerge again. But it's the spirit, as I said, of co-creation that we follow in everything. Sometimes the stages may be a little bit front and back, but that's the spirit that the regulator follows and will continue to seek to follow, simply out of enlightened self-interest, because we know that the world is such a complex world, and if we don't really take on board the views and perspectives and understanding and nuances and data from the industry, we'll probably end up making fairly terrible regulations, which is not our intention, as you can imagine. So I think that where we are today as an industry, we have a very, very strong foundation. I think it's taken us a few years to sort out, particularly on the fixed income side. Post ILFS, post COVID, we had seen that there were some vulnerabilities in the system. I think they have been systematically addressed, and a lot of the structural reform that we felt was required in the industry has been undertaken and executed. Now is the time to build the superstructure on top of this. So I certainly believe that the 40 lakh to 100 lakh should happen. There should be no reason for it not to happen. We would certainly like to support you in that effort. I think the only thing that is a risk to the industry, and we've had this discussion in smaller groups, is that where individual misconduct of persons within this industry, if we find that it reaches a level which is egregious, unfortunately the regulator has no option but to come down like a hammer. And let me tell you, it gives us no joy in doing that. And which is why I think that our new regulation on the industry building institutional mechanisms to prevent and deter wrongdoing in the industry is really, really, really important. Because we are in the mood to liberalize. You've seen some of those first steps, role of the sponsor, self-sponsor concept, bringing in different kinds of entities to be promoters and sponsors in the industry, talking about MF Light, which Mr. Barua, dwelt on at length at the previous meeting. So our desire and our mood is to say that we've built together a strong foundation. Now this superstructure needs to be built really fast and really quickly because the foundation is strong. But the only thing that can shake it is individual misdemeanor. And therefore, I think that the conversations that we've been having around AMFI having an ethics committee in whatever form and manner that you think fit, and for that committee to take action on individuals who are doing wrong things in the market on a self-regulatory basis. I know you all are not technically an SRO, but you're functioning in some form or manner like that. I think that is the best way, because if the industry regulates that part of it itself, there should be no need for a regulator to come in and step in. But if we find that that self-discipline is not there, and with all of these, tens of lakhs of crores at stake, and with the trust of so many crores of our citizens, as a regulator, we simply can't allow that to happen. So, very often these bad apples are there, and because I've been in your shoes, I've been on your side of the table for long enough, I know that usually people know. Okay, there have been many marquee cases which came out as scandals, and when you opened the newspaper and you read it and you said, yeah, well, he got caught now. No surprise. There have been many such scandals where people are not surprised when they read the newspaper because everybody knew. And it often happens that people know. So now it is important that the industry, I would say this is an important part of AMFI 2.0. SEBI has been speaking about, how the entire system needs to move, including ourselves, from letter of the law to spirit of the law. So I think it is only fitting that AMFI also, as it migrates from AMFI 1.0 to 2.0, embraces this issue of spirit of the law and ethics and make sure that no individual becomes the trigger for the regulator to come down with a heavy hammer unnecessarily and cause grief to the entire industry. So that's in your hands. I think I would like to say a few things about the industry. I know that there has been, as I said at the start, a huge amount of expectation on our part from the industry. And I think it is because there is so much transparency that two things happen. Number one, accountability increases, right? There are many parts of our overall financial ecosystem in which this level of transparency is not there. And therefore, it allows an environment where things can be kept hidden for a certain period of time, and that never ends well. I think the strongest aspect of this industry is its transparency in everything that it does. Everything is out in the open, nothing is hidden. And while it is sometimes said that perhaps there is an information overload, I think with ChatGPT and all of that, I think hopefully that era is now gone, because somebody is going to come up with a bunch of apps which make sense of all of this disclosure that we make you do, and make sure that it is intelligible and useful to the common investor. So I think that, you know, the transparency piece is a big piece of why there is trust in the system. And I would urge all of you to really look at using two things in order to guide you on this journey of even greater transparency. The first, as I said, and this whole issue of ethics committee, etc., is the question of what does your moral compass tell you to do? And at the end of the day, I think the good thing is the industry is now mature enough, and the people who are in charge, okay, I think all of you have reached, like me, a certain stage in life where, you know, now certain things don't matter, right? अब कितना पैसा कमा लो, कितना stock option ले लो, यार उसके साथ करोगे क्या? Okay, so there is something which is a higher calling to say that you are leaving behind a world which is better for your children. I think none of us have yet reached grandchildren, but wo bhi ho jayega very soon. So what kind of world are we leaving behind? Just like, you know, ESG is important, what kind of world are we leaving behind for our children? Similarly, as leaders in the market, what kind of markets are we leaving behind for our children? And will our children stand up and take pride and say, you know, my mother or my father built this market? And that's what going forward is going to give us far more satisfaction than maybe another couple of, I don't know, whether to say tens of crores, hundreds of crores in stock options, pata nahi aajkal kya chal raha hai. But whatever it is, we all know finally it doesn't matter, kahan leke jana hai. So this is really an important piece I want to leave with you. And even more importantly, I think everybody inside and outside of SEBI knows that I place my trust in technology. That everything that we want to achieve is possible to achieve actually very quickly and in a very cost-effective manner if we use technology. I think this industry perhaps has not leveraged technology as much as it could have inside of itself. So yes, there are service providers to you, and I think I saw a few people here who come from there, who've built that technology for you, but the industry in itself has not done much, in my view, in terms of building core technology. I worry for you on that count. I worry that, you know, today value migrates to where value resides, and value resides where data resides, where technology resides. And unless the industry really starts to think carefully about the use of technology, whether it is at an individual level, and I'm sure all of you are thinking about how that is to be done, but also in terms of at a collective level, because as I said, since AMFI is a shining manifestation of collaboration, the use of RegTech, the use of various other ways of coming together, saving on the costs, particularly when it comes to compliance, because as we were discussing a few days ago, the competition is in the market. But compliance, you have only one common enemy, which is sitting on the front row here. So you can all collaborate and cooperate to face this one common enemy of this regulator. And so there's no competition in compliance. There's only all the benefits of collaboration in terms of compliance. So I would urge you to invest in the systems, invest in the technology to make that happen. With that, this is my hope that this is where we're all going to be headed. There is, as it is, we have a very bright present. I won't say only a future, but there is an even brighter future, particularly, I would say, in terms of financial inclusion, which is very, very close to all our hearts. We all, most of us belong to very privileged backgrounds, and we know in our heart of hearts that the real mission will not be achieved unless that stage of financial inclusion and that stage of really bringing and creating wealth in the hands of those who are not as fortunate as we have been, unless that is achieved, our victory is a bit hollow. But ending on a lighter note, I could not resist this cartoon. I think the industry often feels like that kid, he's the smartest kid in the class. So the teacher always calls upon him to answer the toughest questions. Okay, and he often feels like opting out, like, can you just like pick on somebody else, please? So I'm sure that that's often how it feels. But the reality is, you all are actually the brightest students in this class, and therefore, whether it is in terms of transparency, in terms of structural robustness, that is something that you have both at the industry level as well as in terms of the way that AMFI functions. So yes, we are going to continue to call you up to answer the most difficult questions, and the beauty is, वो कहते हैं ना, जो काम करता है, he is rewarded with even more work. So काम भी करते जाता है, फिर उसको और काम मिलता है, फिर उसको और भी काम करना पड़ता है. So that's in short what I wanted to say. And whoever is next.
Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, and with me is Rana Barua, the Group CEO of Havas India. Thank you very much for being here at the BT studio, our multiverse studio, on stands, online, on air, as we call it, part of the India Today group. And with me, one of the finest minds in the Indian media space. Rana, big jamboree and the amount of people here, and the top line discussion. I wanted you to tell our viewers, what are the couple of big things that all CEOs from this fraternity are talking about, the good and the bad both, please?
Yeah. So no, thank you first for getting me on your show, and it's good to be here. I think, the good thing about what we are seeing in Goa Fest is, you're seeing a lot more of enthusiasm and participation from all forms of advertising and media agency. It's just not, advertising agency or a media agency. We have all the broadcasters, many clients, many publishing houses, television channels, digital. I think it's a very good melting point of all the forms of advertising and media channels that should come under together. So I think that's something which is very exciting for all of us. I think in terms of conversations, everybody's, there is naturally, there was a lot of challenges about how will the economy do, what is happening, what kind of conversations are going to happen, is it going to be television, is it digital? I think I'm finding some of these sessions, though I'm part of the committee which has kind of sat and worked on some of these, I think the sessions are very stimulating. So if you've spent some of the interesting sessions about startup economy or the digital versus television, I think it's quite more, it's not just educative, it's quite clear in terms of the kind of information that we are sharing with everybody.
Lots to unpack from that first